In November 2022, a cryptocurrency empire valued at $32 billion vanished in 72 hours. $8 billion gone. 1 million customers trapped. Their savings, their futures frozen inside a company that promised safety but delivered catastrophe. The man responsible, Sam Bankman-Fried, went from billionaire philanthropist to federal prisoner, 25 years, $11 billion in forfeiture. But here's where things take a darker turn. 3 years later, something unprecedented is happening. Creditors are being repaid. Some are receiving more than they lost. Yet, the questions multiply. Because this story isn't just about a collapse. It's about how the truth was far darker and far stranger than anyone realized. This is the story of how brilliance became fraud, how trust became theft, and how one of the biggest financial disasters in American history unfolded while everyone was watching.
Before the collapse, before the headlines, before the courtroom sketches and silver handcuffs, Sam Bankman-Fried was considered prodigy. He grew up in a world of logic, numbers, and high expectations, raised by two Stanford law professors in a home where ethics and philosophy were dinner table conversations. He attended MIT, one of the most elite engineering schools in the world. Yet he never seemed fully attached to anything except ideas. Ideas about efficiency, ideas about impact, ideas about changing the world. After graduating, he entered the world of quantitative trading at Jane Street, a firm known for its intensity and mathematical precision. But Sam didn't stay long, felt constrained, believed he could do more, be more, build something bigger than himself, something that could move billions, maybe trillions, toward what he believed was the greater good. And so he left, founding a new firm called Alameda Research in 2017, a trading operation built on algorithms, arbitrage, and an obsession with exploiting inefficiencies in global crypto markets. Alameda was fast, ruthless, brilliant, and in its earliest days, astonishingly profitable. One trade defined its rise, the Japan arbitrage. In Japan, Bitcoin traded several $1,000s higher than in the United States. Alameda bought Bitcoin in one country, sold in another, and pocketed the difference. At its peak, the trade generated up to $40 million a day. This success planted the seed for something even bigger, a global exchange. A place where millions could trade crypto seamlessly, safely, instantly. A platform built not just for profit, but for power. That platform would become FTX, and it would make Sam Bankman-Fried the most influential figure in crypto. But behind the image of the awkward genius in cargo shorts, behind the messy hair and the quirky interviews, a storm was already forming. A storm that would eventually sweep through global markets and drag millions into its path. FTX launched in 2019, and within months, it became one of the fastest growing exchanges in the world. It was innovative, liquid, and built for serious traders, people who pushed billions through volatile markets. Sam positioned himself as the face of the future, the responsible adult in a chaotic crypto universe. He testified before Congress, he met with regulators, he promised transparency, accountability, and safety. But behind the scenes, something was fundamentally wrong. The walls between FTX and Alameda were paper thin. So thin, they may as well have not existed. Alameda Research, Sam's first company, was supposed to be separate, an independent trading firm with no access to customer funds. But in reality, Alameda had a secret pipeline into FTX's accounts. Customer deposits from FTX were quietly funneled into Alameda, filling holes created by bad trades, risky bets, and leveraged positions that spiraled out of control. Billions moved through this hidden back door, money that customers believed was safe, protected, and untouched. This wasn't a glitch or oversight. According to internal testimony, it was coded directly into FTX's systems. Alameda could withdraw unlimited funds. It could run massive negative balances. It could lose billions, and FTX customers would unknowingly foot the bill. Executives inside the company saw the risk but continued anyway. The profits were too tempting. The ambitions were too big, and the line between genius and recklessness blurred more every day. All of this remained hidden from customers, investors, and regulators. On the outside, FTX looked like a clean, trusted, hyper-efficient exchange. On the inside, it was a house built on sand, and sand always collapses, especially when billions of dollars sit on top of it. The collapse began with a single document, a leaked balance sheet from Alameda Research, a spreadsheet that revealed what no investor, no regulator, and no customer was ever supposed to see. It showed that Alameda was deeply entangled with FTX, far more than anyone knew. Billions in liabilities, questionable assets, loans backed by tokens FTX itself had created. And worst of all, it showed that Alameda's financial stability depended almost entirely on FTX's own token, FTT, a token that could crash if confidence broke. When the document leaked publicly, cracks formed instantly. Analysts raised alarms. Investors panicked. And then one man delivered the blow that would end everything. Changpeng Zhao, CEO of Binance, announced that his company would liquidate its entire FTT holdings. It was a move that sent shockwaves through the crypto world. Within minutes, fear surged across the industry. People rushed to withdraw their money from FTX. Billions began pouring out. It was a digital bank run. Fast, furious, unstoppable. FTX didn't have the funds. It couldn't process the withdrawals. The hidden truth, the missing billions, was finally exposed. Sam scrambled desperately. Meetings with investors, calls to regulators, pleas for emergency funding. Every minute mattered, and every minute made things worse. In a final attempt to survive, he turned to Binance, the same company that triggered the crisis. For a moment, it looked like salvation had arrived. Binance signed a non-binding letter of intent to acquire FTX, but 24 hours later, deal collapsed. After reviewing FTX's books, Binance walked away, citing mishandled customer funds and regulatory investigations. It was over. FTX filed for bankruptcy. 130 affiliated companies collapsed with it. Millions of customers were locked out of their accounts, their money frozen indefinitely. And as the world demanded answers, Sam Bankman-Fried was taken into custody. The months that followed the collapse, the truth emerged piece by piece, testimony by testimony, document by document. Federal investigators uncovered a trail of evidence that pointed straight back to Sam Bankman-Fried. He was charged with fraud, conspiracy, money laundering, and campaign finance violations. Prosecutors alleged that he orchestrated one of the largest financial crimes in American history. As the trial began, the courtroom filled with former employees, friends, colleagues, even his closest inner circle. Some once praised him. Now, they testified against him. Caroline Ellison, the former CEO of Alameda Research, took the stand first. She detailed how Alameda secretly drew billions from FTX accounts. She described the hidden back door, the coded privileges, the lies told to investors and customers. Her testimony was devastating. She wasn't alone. Several top executives pleaded guilty and cooperated with prosecutors, admitting that they had helped conceal the truth. Emails, balance sheets, private conversations, all revealed a pattern of deception, a pattern that prosecutors said began years before the collapse. Sam's defense argued that he was overwhelmed, irresponsible, careless, but not criminal. They claimed he never intended to steal, that the failure was due to mismanagement, not malice. But the jury was unconvinced. After just a few hours of deliberation, they returned with a verdict, guilty on all 7 counts. The judge delivered a harsh sentence, 25 years in federal prison, plus more than $11 billion in restitution. He called the crimes brazen and the harm incalculable. Sam Bankman-Fried, once hailed as the face of responsible crypto, was now inmate number 56001-510. After the verdict, many believed the story of FTX was over. The company was dead. The money was gone. The victims were left to wait through years of bankruptcy proceedings. But then, something unexpected happened. The bankruptcy estate began recovering assets, far more than anyone anticipated. Investments FTX had made during the boom years had appreciated dramatically. Crypto markets rebounded. The estate tracked down missing funds, seized properties, liquidated assets, and unwound complicated financial structures structures that once hid billions. It was slow, painful, methodical. It was working. By 2025, the estate announced that the vast majority of customers would receive their money back, some even more than they originally deposited. For many, it was surreal. After one of the worst collapses in crypto history, restitution was actually happening. Customers who expected pennies on the dollar were suddenly made whole. But not everyone was satisfied. Some argued that repayments were calculated in 2022 dollar values, not at the current price of crypto assets. They believed they were owed far more, especially those who held coins that later surged. Legal battles erupted. Debates flared online. Questions about fairness and responsibility became louder than ever. Was this compensation or a new form of loss? And through all of it, Sam Bankman-Fried continued to fight. He filed an appeal, claiming that the collapse was a liquidity crisis, not fraud, that FTX had the assets, that the bankruptcy was avoidable. His supporters argued he was misunderstood. His critics insisted he was dangerous, and the world waited to see if the courts would grant him another chance. The collapse of FTX was more than a financial disaster. It was a reckoning, a moment that revealed just how fragile the foundations of modern finance can be when built on trust instead of transparency. It exposed the dangers of unchecked ambition, the risks of placing billions into the hands of young founders with more vision than oversight, and the consequences of believing that innovation alone can replace regulation. For years, crypto had been marketed as a revolution, decentralized, secure, resistant to corruption. But FTX showed the world that technology cannot eliminate human flaws, not greed, not arrogance, not deception. It also highlighted a deeper truth. When money moves too fast, accountability often moves too slow. Regulators struggled to react, investors overlooked red flags, and millions trusted a system they barely understood. This wasn't just a crypto failure. It was a failure of governance, risk management, and collective caution. A reminder that even the brightest minds can make devastating mistakes, and that brilliance can disguise danger. But perhaps the biggest lesson is this: transparency matters. Oversight matters. And in a world where fortunes can appear and disappear in an instant, financial safety must be earned, not assumed. Today, the story of FTX is still evolving. The bankruptcy estate continues distributing recovered funds, courts continue reviewing disputes, and creditors continue waiting for final resolutions. Markets have largely moved on, but the shadow of FTX lingers. It hangs over lawmakers drafting new regulations. It shapes the conversations of investors discussing risk, and it remains a cautionary tale for the companies trying to rebuild trust in crypto. Meanwhile, Sam Bankman-Fried sits in a federal prison, still insisting that he never intended to defraud anyone. His appeal is underway, seeking a shorter sentence or even a new trial. Supporters claim he's being punished for mistakes, not malice. Critics argue he orchestrated a deliberate, calculated scheme. The divide is sharp, emotional, unresolved. And as new evidence surfaces and court decisions unfold, one thing becomes clear. The full truth behind FTX may take years to uncover. Because the collapse wasn't just the result of one man's choices. It was the product of an entire ecosystem built on hype, trust, and unchecked power. A system still growing, still changing, still dangerous in ways few truly understand. The rise and fall of FTX is a story of ambition, innovation, and catastrophic failure. It's a reminder of how quickly trust can be built and how quickly it can be destroyed. It shows that financial empires no longer collapse in slow motion. They don't fall over years or months or even days. They fall in real time, online, in front of millions of watching eyes. And it reveals a deeper truth about the world we live in, that the line between genius and recklessness is thin, fragile, and often invisible until it snaps. FTX was a symbol of the future until it became a warning about unchecked power, a warning about blind trust, a warning about believing the myth instead of questioning the math. But the most unsettling part is this: FTX will not be the last. Not in crypto, not in finance, not in any system where ambition outpaces accountability. So the question is not whether another collapse will happen. The question is who will see it coming and who will be standing when it does. Because in the end, the story of FTX is not just about money lost or justice served. It's about the fragile architecture of trust that holds the financial world together, and the haunting reminder that even the strongest empires can disappear in an instant.